as society got more advanced in this time, it seems we have less and less dependence on astronomy. Astronomy, when I'm thinking 4,005 years ago to now, it just kind of filled in the blanks of what we couldn't figure out on our own. So 12,000 years ago, if there's a really advanced civilization, why would astronomy play as big of a role in them where everything is pointing to X, Y, and Z stars?
Well, first of all, let's consider what we mean by advanced. What is an advanced civilization? Are we really an advanced civilization? Do we look around at much of our culture that we would say, that's incredibly advanced? Or are we talking tech? Are we talking tech? We're technologically
and
advanced.
Scientifically, yeah.
Yeah, we believe that is advanced. And that is one of the mistakes in looking for a quote-unquote advanced civilization in the past, is that we tend to be looking for ourselves in our past. Whereas it's possible for a civilization to be advanced in other ways. We could not measure longitude. Very important issue if you're a navigator and a sailor. We could not measure longitude until 1760s, 1750s, sometime in the second half of the 18th century. It took the creation of a very precise marine chronometer in order to be able to calculate what your longitude is. Otherwise, in the middle of a stormy night, you could find yourself 300 miles west of where you thought you were and crashing into a coastline. It's a really good thing to know longitude. There was £1 million in the 18th century was a lot of money. There was £1 million British prize for cracking the longitude problem. And it wasn't until the second half of the 18th century that it was solved.
Wow.
So it's weird that on ancient maps, copied from even more ancient source maps, there are precise longitudes, precise relative longitudes. This is one of the things that suggests to me that a civilized... the second thing is those maps show the world as it looked during the last ice age. Thirdly, and most important, they show Antarctica. Our civilization didn't discover Antarctica until 1820. So if I find a map from 1520 showing Antarctica where the map maker informs us that he based his map on much older source maps that were falling to pieces and that he that will fall completely apart, he's preserved the information in those maps on his maps. He's copying from older, and there is Antarctica. So, did they just make it up? That's what
Why do we still call it Antarctica? That was another thing. I was like,
well, the opposite of the Arctic.
Yeah, but it's
very recent map.
It's like, bro, he called it Antarctica. Why don't you just look at the map? You're going to call it the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we call it Antarctica. They used to call it Terra Australis, the southern land. If you go for the Orontius Phineas map, for example. You'll find a much better reference.
Yeah, I thought that map said Antarctica. That's very good.
Yeah.
Tripped up.
Oh, I actually am really excited that we're talking about Antarctica.
Yeah. Antarctica is an interesting place.
This is my newest rabbit hole.
It's one of those great... You see, there's Antarctica. That's the Orontius Phineas.
To the right?
There's South Africa, and there's Antarctica, and there's the tip of South America, almost touching Antarctica. It's a bit bigger than it is today, but it would have been like that during the last ice age. That's a map from 1531, and what they're saying in the legend is that here in this map I expose regions that neither Eudoxus nor, I forget the names of all the ancient maps, none of them knew about it. They were hidden in darkness, but here they are. Hidden in darkness, I suggest they're hidden in darkness on ancient maps that Orontius Phineas copied from.
Wow.
It's an anomaly that it's sitting there, and it's not good enough to say that those map makers just wanted to balance the world, so they put a fantasy continent there, which later turned out to actually be there.
Right.
That's roughly what they're saying now. So that suggests to me a culture that was capable of exploring and mapping the Earth during the last ice age. The second issue is precisely astronomy. It's ancient knowledge of precession, which, again, our culture attributes to the Greeks, roughly between 300 BC and 100 BC. They're supposed to have been the discoverers of precession. Precession is very hard to observe. In a single lifetime, it's a fraction of an inch on the horizon, the change. So you have to keep records over long periods of time. You have to have a system that preserves those records and passes them down. So it's the knowledge of precession that is manifested in ancient mythology and in ancient traditions, often traditions that speak of a global flood. The Vedas themselves contain numbers that are related to precession. Again, I don't want to get too boring, but precession proceeds at the rate of 1 degree every 72 years, and this is the key number that is found in ancient mythology around the world, and variations of that number. So 72 plus 36 is 108. 108 is another precessional number. 108 divided by 2 is 54. That's another precessional number. That's why on the bridge at Angkor Thom in Angkor in Cambodia, you have 54 figures on either side of the bridge. And what are they doing there? Hauling on the body of the serpent Vasuki, who is wrapped around Mount Mandara, and they are churning the Milky Ocean. The argument is that this is a symbol for precession, that is taking place there, and the numbers are multiplied. And another example I often give is the Great Pyramid itself. And it's very important, I made this point at the beginning, it's very important that when people want to check this calculation, that they use the true original height of the Great Pyramid, the 481 feet that it would have risen to, rather than its rather stunted 450 plus feet today. When you use the true original height of the Great Pyramid and multiply it by 43,200, you get the polar radius of the Earth. And when you measure the base perimeter of the Great Pyramid and multiply it by 43,200, you get the equatorial circumference of the Earth. Now, why does 43,200 matter? It's 600 times 72. It's another precessional number. It's a number generated by the precessional motion of the Earth itself. And there we enter a very clever piece of work. Great Pyramid is almost perfectly aligned to true north. It's within 3/60ths of a single degree of true north. It's an error, but it's really good. When you look at a monument on that scale, 6 million tons, 481 feet tall, you know, and you get it within 3/60ths of a degree of true north, you are doing very accurate work. And you were saying something else as well.
You think they figured that out back in the day?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You think they were like,
they used astronomy. Fuck. They used astronomy to figure it out.
But no, that they messed up a little.
I think they did the best they could. I think they did the best they could. We also have to take account of movements of the Earth itself.
So it might have been right at the time.
It might have been. There might have been a slight shift in the tectonic plates underneath. I'm not sure, but the fact is, it's 3/60ths off now.
Okay.
What it does tell us, apart from the level of accuracy, is that when they made that monument, they wanted to lock it in to the key cardinal directions. It's perfectly true north, perfectly true south, perfectly true east, perfectly true west, within 3/60ths of a single degree. Then the cardinal directions of this planet mattered to them. They were speaking to the Earth with that monument. Secondly, it's located on latitude 30 degrees north, give or take a few seconds of arc. And latitude 30 degrees north is 1/3 of the way between the equator and the North Pole. Okay, so that's not an insignificant latitude. It's a significant latitude. It seems like the monument is speaking to the Earth. And then we find that it encodes the dimensions of the Earth on a scale provided by a key motion of the Earth itself, namely the Earth's precession, operating at the rate of 1 degree every 72 years. Multiply that by 600, you get 43,200. That's the scale the pyramid is built on, 1 to 43,200. So it's a monument that speaks to the Earth, that is aligned to the cardinal directions of the Earth, and that encodes the dimensions of the Earth on a scale defined by the Earth itself.
And nobody would object to this at all?
Nobody that I know of, once they get the measurements right and realize that they're not dealing with a 450-foot tall monument, but a 481-foot tall monument, nobody disputes that. That pi, which is used to calculate the diameter and circumference of a circle, is built into the Great Pyramid. This is broadly accepted by Egyptologists. It's just that they regard it as a coincidence.
And your theory is also that the ancient Egyptians did this, right? Because you said they did most of the work.
Yeah, so, yeah. I think they did. I think it was finished off. You define the very moment you start building that 52-degree slope into all the sides, you're defining what the apex is going to be.
Right.
That's there from the beginning.
And what was their daily ritual use for the pyramids of Giza that you theorize?
Well, actually, nobody has any idea. The Great Pyramid was sealed. It was a sealed monument. So in roughly 900 AD, forgive me if I don't give you the exact date, give or take 50 years, the Caliph al-Mamun, who was running Egypt at the time, wanted to get inside the Great Pyramid. This is 400 years before the earthquake. The facing stones are still in place. He could not find the true entrance to the Great Pyramid. It turned out that it could have been found. according to accounts, there was some sort of almost like a button that you pressed, and the doorway would slide, the facing stones would slide away, and you could find the true entrance. But he couldn't find that. So, but he did know that other pyramids had their entrance in the north face, other older pyramids, like the Pyramid of Unas. He knew they had their entrance in the north face. So he started hacking away at the north face of the Great Pyramid. And that is the entrance through which you will have gone when you entered the Great Pyramid. It's called Mamun's Hole. He and his team hacked it out with sledgehammers and chisels, and they broke their way in to the north face. And then as they were doing so, they heard a block falling in a hollow space. And then they knew they were onto something. That block that fell, caused by the vibrations that they had caused, must have been in some kind of passageway or chamber. So they headed towards that sound, and that's where they found the original passageway system of the Great Pyramid, which after you've gone through Mamun's Hole, gone round a little corner where it's all cut out of the rock, and then you find yourself going up into first of all, the ascending corridor, and then the Grand Gallery, which is a most majestic structure. They found the original entrance system in that way, and now the true original entrance is open, but it's not used by tourists who enter the Great Pyramid.
Okay, I want to talk about Antarctica, because I think this is